Batman, after many delays and cast changes and anticipation buildup, it's finally out, it's finally arrived, it's out now in theaters, and it's going to be on HBO Max on April 19th. This is the long-awaited project from director Matt Reeves, who, up until this point, he's got one of the strongest filmographies of directors working today, including his monstrous debut of Cloverfield, horror work Let Me In, as well as 2 out of the 3 new Planet of the Apes movies. And for this latest project, he's recruited an A-list group of actors, including Twilight's very own Robert Pattinson, as well as Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, Colin Farrell, Andy Serkis, amongst others as well. The Batman takes place in modern-day Gotham City, with billionaire Bruce Wayne concealing himself as a masked vigilante now 2 years into a crime-stopping momentum. He works alongside Lieutenant James Gordon in the Gotham City Police Department to investigate the mayor's unprecedented death, composed by someone who identifies themselves only as the Riddler. The Riddler begins leaving a trail of murders as Batman teams up with Catwoman to discover who is behind the coordinated killings and what other secrets lie behind this chain of events. Obviously, this is one of the biggest movies coming out of 2022. There's been extensive speculation, viral attention with this being a new DC movie, a new Batman movie, but most importantly, a new actor playing the titular role. Everyone, myself included, was curious to see how, and more importantly, if Robert Pattinson can portray such a huge comic book character that's cherished by many fans, as well as already have been performed brilliantly by Christian Bale, Michael Keaton, Adam West. And there are still people that to this day only look at Pattinson from their narrow-minded, teensy-weensy little brain point of view as him being this glittery vampire boy. And look, to a certain extent, he did play Edward Cullen for quite a while, became arguably one of the biggest household name-brand actors in the early 2010s. But the last Twilight came out in 2012. It's coming up on an entire decade since its release. Robert Pattinson, believe it or not, has done different performances since that awfully written character. He's got some staggering projects and some questionable ones. So with all that said though, does Robert Pattinson deliver on the role of Batman? Y'all are not ready. Matt Reeves, man, he's the one. He knew what sort of Bruce Wayne he wanted to showcase, and he picked a precise actor to bring that design to life. Because Pattinson is easily one of the best portrayals of Batman to date. That single opinion of mine is totally subjective, especially as I don't credit myself as the biggest expert on all things Batman. You got people battling discourse all day online if Ben Affleck is a better portrayal, or no, Christian Bale is the best, or no, this animated series has a hidden gem voice actor, or this guy, or that. Look, what I will say is that no matter who you like as your favorite Batman, what your ranking order is, whatever, I can almost guarantee that you will at least enjoy Robert Pattinson as Batman. Reeves has written this Bruce Wayne to be of sharp contrast to previous portrayals. Here, Bruce Wayne is a billionaire, yes, but he's not a playboy or a socialite of sorts. Here, he's a broken and driven man who's reserved, logical, a bit lost, and above all else, quiet. This Batman observes, he listens, he pays attention to the most minutiae of details, and he takes his time. And I really want to stress that last note, he takes his time, because when you watch this and witness how careful and meticulous he acts around others, you get this formidable sense from him that you don't want to mess with this guy. Reeves boldly chose to go a different directional route with this movie. Here he wanted to put a distinct focus on Batman and his detective skills, blending in genres of action, mystery, horror, and psychological thriller that are illustrated in the early comic books. The byproduct of all this combined is a fresh and unique take on the Batman character that was well-deserved and executed with total control. That dominant aura of Batman is only highlighted to even greater effect with Reeves' decision of making this movie dark. The color palette for a majority of this movie consists of every shade and degree of black and gray, and that overwhelming darkness on every edge and corner of the screen adds a certain impalpable weight to the movie. Because Reeves had the finished digital image ran through film and then back to digital, it gave it a harsh, grainy look that you only get from retro 70s movies. The movie is visually grim, bleak, with dim lit colors that truly mix so well, so cohesively to create this despondent atmosphere of modern day Gotham City. And they use a lot of saturations of orange for contradistinction, which I gotta say was a smart decision, because those colors bring in so much serenity and calmness to an otherwise dark movie. There's little to no jokes around it, and when they do come, they're quick and worthwhile. The entire of this movie is tonally gloomy and aesthetically grating, and in so doing, it places you right inside the environment for you to experience all of this right alongside Batman. Oh man, there's so much to talk about this movie. I gotta do a bullet fire on this one, but it'll still capture the essence of my thoughts on this one. Here we go. The story is brilliantly layered with a lot of complex motives and characters that bring this script to life. Zoe Kravitz is Catwoman.
Smokin'!
She's alluring, she's hypnotizing, she's badass. I love the minimalist makeshift costume that her character has. Andy Serkis as Alfred was a wonderful mentor follow-up. Colin Farrell as the Penguin is off the walls and unrecognizable. What in the world? Let's go! And Paul Dano as the Riddler is enthralling to watch. I initially had my skepticism from the first hour, but by the time the credits ran and everything, I was 100% behind his capture of how deranged, inspired, and whacked out of his mind he painted this villain. There's definitely going to be some talk of this guy for some time to come. The societal messages are delivered with prevalent measure, and the change from Batman's morality of instilling fear or vengeance into criminals and then him turning into a reason for hope and justice by saving the citizens was a solid character arc in just one movie. The action is rather sparse, but when they do come on, those scenes are vehement and just plain awesome to watch. I love the sound design choices here because those punches that Batman deals are powerful, but they're not overblown on the speakers for dramatic effect like any typical action movie. Instead, the sound of his hits landing is rather muffled like they ought to be in real life, and yet you can still perceive and feel the intensity behind those moves when everyone is just falling face flat to the ground. The car chase scene, oh my god. I wish I had seen this in IMAX because I can just imagine how loud those engines were roaring. It's a breathtaking action sequence with a brilliant use of attaching cameras to the ensuing cars with Batman's point of view always facing frontwards and the Penguin's always facing backwards looking at you. You always see and receive this clear measurement of distance that further made things exciting to watch as you're seeing one get closer or the other just get away. The music from Michael Giacchino is dynamic, it's bold, it's dreadful when it needs to be. Those trombones are tromboning. And as much praise I'm bestowing to this movie, there are still some gripes that I have with it. The most obvious that I'm sure many felt in some way, shape, or form is the runtime. Look, I'm no hater on how long a director wants his vision to be. If you believe a movie should be 3 hours, make it 3. If you think 2 is fine, make it 2. If you think your story can be told in 4 or less, make it the length you deem so fit. I've always been an advocate for directors being allowed creative freedom because that's how the best version of whatever project the studio is backing them up with money ought to fund. If the movie still sucks, at least you genuinely tried. But even in these rare instances of long movies, you can trim some fat. The first act here had a solid pacing, introduced plenty, set things up nicely, and immediately drew our attention. But that second act was a little strenuous. Things kept moving at the same lifeless speed that it does drag many scenes out longer than they need to be. And while there are imperative scenes that do and should have gotten the time they needed to create the applicable impression, there were for sure other times where conversation just could have been wrapped up quicker. And as much as I praised Pattinson on this role, I do think he was constraining some parts of Bruce Wayne's boastful side that would have otherwise given more of an emotional catharsis in later scenes. There just wasn't much resonance for me. Emotional moments like with Alfred in the hospital, or Bruce finding out about his parents on TV, or the finale of him saving the people. They were memorable segments, but the impact wasn't there. And again, I think it's part and due to how much sorrowful qualities Pattinson incorporated for this version of Wayne. Anyways, y'all, look, the point is this. The Batman with Robert Pattinson, it's a hit. It's glum, it's downcast, and it offers the character a fresh live-action spin that will surely make all those Twilight haters become fanboys now. Life comes full circle. I give the Batman a solid 8 and recommend it to anyone interested in Pattinson or the Batman character. Just go see it, but if you do go see it, then please go take a pee break before because you'll be sorry if you won't. Until next time, guys.